Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Bull Party. If you're somebody that just loves the sport of bull riding, the future of bull riding, the present of bull riding, and the history of the past, this is the show for you. We're going to be bringing in certain people, doing interviews, having different guest appearances, and overall just talking about the sport of bull riding and what we can do to grow it. I hope that this episode and this show in general will create a conduit for other people that love the sport of bull riding as much as I do to communicate and to just have a good level playing field to have great conversation. So what we'll do every one of these shows, like I said, we'll try to have a show every couple weeks. Been working on, wanting to do something like this for a long time. Just figure we just roll with it and get it started. So anyway, might as well dive right into it and take a look at like the bull riding as of right now, where we're at with everything. This last year was a fantastic year in bull riding. I mean, you're looking at a great young bull rider in Keiiki Pacheco, becoming the world champion this last year in the PBR. And I'm just maybe a little bit old school, but in the sense that to come up, to have an injury like that with his knee and be sore the way that he was, and to be able to step up and overcome the adversity of the pain and go through the finals and still solidify that world title, that's huge in my book. You got to give credit to even somebody like a Chase Outlaw. A lot of people talk about bull riding and how it's not, what it was in the past and things like that. Well, you might want to take a look at this last year, take a look at these recent finals, because I believe those two people in particular might be proving you wrong. For Chase to take a shot in the face like he did in Cheyenne and to go through what he did and to be able to fight back, come back through all that adversity, that's saying something. That's being a cowboy. That's being a bull rider. And that's what separates our sport. That's what separates, our demographic in general from the rest of the world. And that's something that we should take pride in and needs to be recognized. So both Keiiki and Chase, they're at the PBR World Finals. And along with everybody else, everybody's got their own bumps and bruises, but obviously those two situations kind of stepped up. And the ability to be hurt and fight through the adversity and still succeed is just a huge plus in my book. You look at Tuff Hedeman, for example. There's people, everybody's got their own bull riders, got their own heroes or whatnot. And it's not necessarily the 4-time world championships that Tuff won that made me admire him as a young man. But it was the 1995 NFR Round 1. Bad Moon is the bull he had drawn in the first round to jump out and go 86 points. Less than 2 months before that, he completely broke his face and had to have reconstruction facial surgery. And to have the gumption, the courage, the pride to not only jump back in that buck and shoot and go out there on the top bulls in the entire world, but to go back out and actually succeed. That's what being a bull rider is about. That's what being a cowboy is about. That's what this show is about, is to elevate and bring that conversation to the forefront. People might say, they're crazy, they're stupid. Maybe some of that might be true. But at the end of the day, I think it's more about being courageous, having a certain character about yourself that allows you to pull down from somewhere deep and allows you to stick your hand in the bull rope, nod your face, and go on with it. And again, not only just do it, but to succeed. So again, big shout out to just the bull riding year that it was last year in general in the PBR. Keiiki's a up and coming. Who knows how many world titles are in his future if he continues to be as determined and disciplined as he is now. But there's obviously a lot of people right behind him, right on his heels. And obviously, huge shout out Sage Kimzey, winning his 5th world title in the PRCA. So getting much closer to that record of Donnie Gaze and his 8 world titles. So, there's a lot to be excited about in our sport, and to really kind of reach out, try to get in front of people, tell people if they don't know much about bull riding or about our sport in general, let's let them know why this is the greatest sport on the planet, why you got to be, one of the greatest athletes in this world to be able to compete at this sport at a high level, and the opportunities that they might bring if they wanted to try this sport themselves. So that's a good look at the current, present of bull riding. Jess Lockwood's obviously off to a hot start here in 2019. So looking forward to a great year of bull riding. We got the PBR here in Denver tonight, and then with San Antonio, Fort Worth, and all the PBR season getting hot and heavy here right now. A lot of good stuff around the corner. But one of the main conversations I wanted to have today You know, when you look at all sports, you know, whether it's football and the greatest quarterbacks of all time to never win a Super Bowl, I just think it's such an intriguing question and wanted to kind of get the conversation started. You know, on who do you all think is the best bull rider of all time to never win a world title? You know, so if you want to put in your 2 cents and put in your vote, go ahead, share this video, comment, you know, in the comment section below to make your vote count, and you know, I'll tally those votes up, and in the next episode we'll see who might be the winner based off of all your all's votes. But just to get the conversation started, I'm going to throw out a few names, give you some stats, just to get the conversation started, and then give you my vote at the end. So, you know, when you look at some guys, I mean, maybe you consider them, you know, honorable mention or whatnot, but you know, somebody like a J.W. Hart, you know, he's an average champion of the PBR, an Ironman, you know, from just consecutive events, I think goes so far, to me, in my opinion anyway, in a sport like this where there's so many bumps and bruises, so many different adversities you got to overcome. To have that many consecutive events in a row is huge undertaking for me. But then you also look at somebody like a Valderon de Oliveira. I mean, there might be, not everybody realizes, but he finished in the top 4 in the world from 2008 to 2012. I mean, that is a significant achievement on its own, to be in the top 4 once, let alone every year for 5 years in a row, and to never get that gold buckle. You look at one of, you know, somebody else in a similar situation, would it be like a Bobby Del Vecchio back in the 80s, the Bronx Bomber. Guy was a 3-time runner-up champion of the world. 3 different times was the bridesmaid and never the bride. You know, so he has absolutely got to be recognized in this list as one of the best bull riders of all time to never win a world title. You kind of go back, somebody who else I think has just made some of the greatest bull rides ever, especially in recent history, recent memory, is a Robson Palermo. Robson is finished in the top 7 in the world from 2007 to 2012. So again, riding at an extremely high level for a long period of time to finish in the top 7 that many times. He's also a 3-time average winner of the PBR World Finals. The #1 biggest bull riding in all the world, with the toughest bulls and the toughest guys that you're competing against. And he was the champion 3 different times. So that is huge. But above all else, if you take a look at the top money winners of all time in the history of the PBR, Robson is number 10. Number 10 money winner of all time. To never win a world title and to be in the top 10 money winners of all time, that is saying something, that he has been consistent and rode highly at a long period of time, but just never quite won that gold buckle. So Robson Palermo's definitely got to be high on the list. Somebody else though, 14-time NFR qualifier, Wasey Cathy. Think about that now. 14 times. 14 times at 14 years of your life that you consistently were in the top 15 in the world, back when it was the top 15 bull riders in the world, and he was there year in and year out and getting closer every year. But to be a 14 NFR qualifier, there is no way that he cannot be on this list. But maybe this would be my vote now, and maybe it's because of my age, maybe it's just because of some of the influence of some of the bull rides that I saw him make. But my vote would have to be Clint Bronger, the Roscoe Ranger from Roscoe, Montana. Clint was the 1990 runner-up world title to the world title in the PRCA. Just barely missing it by getting bucked off of Skulls Outlaw Willie in the 10th round. So there's one opportunity that just barely missed him from winning the world title. But even more than that, even closer than that, the 1994 PBR World Finals, the inaugural season of the PBR, Clint Bronger was leading the world all the way through. And then in the finals, back then they did it where you tripled the points. So the points you made at the finals got tripled. And he drew Bodacious in the short round of the PBR World Finals. So obviously everybody knows Bodacious. He was the rankest cat in the world at that particular time. So Clint jumps out there, gives every ounce of effort you possibly can to get one rode on a dirty, nasty trip by J31. And what does Clint do? He just barely misses it, riding him for 7.7, and that world title slips through his hand one more time. So you just can't get much closer. In 1992, he finished third in the world, and just a great overall bull rider and one of the best bull riders to ever do it, to never win a world title. But when you look at all this, when you put all those guys together, all how close each and every one of them was, the stats that they had, and just the careers that they put together and piled up, there is probably no one closer to being the best bull rider of all time without winning a world title than Denny Flynn. Now, Denny Flynn is a 9-time NFR qualifier. He at one point had a 98-point bull ride, which held as the highest score in bull riding for years and years until Wade Leslie and Wolfman came along with the 100. He was also 90 points in Cheyenne and held that arena record for 3 decades before it was finally broken. He's a PRCA Hall of Fame inductee. But as far as being the closest guy to ever winning a world title, he has been the average champion at the NFR 3 different times. 1975, 1981, 1982. And there was some wolves that were riding bulls in the PRCA at that particular time, not to mention the least of all 8-time world champion Donnie Gay. So that's what Denny was dealing with, was just a bull riding son of a gun and a traveling warrior like Donnie Gay. So he's a 3-time average champion and then a 3-time runner-up. 3 different times he was second and not first, the bridesmaid and not the bride. And in 1980, he lost it by $188. Think about that, $188 after a year's worth of work to come that close and to not get that gold buckle. Now, this isn't something to where you look back on these guys' career, and I'm guarantee you none of them, regret anything. Sometimes that's just how sports work. Sometimes you can be the greatest passer of all time in Dan Marino and never have a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, these guys, they had the great careers, nothing to be ashamed of, but I just love the conversation of who's the greatest bull rider of all time that never won a world title. Because sometimes when you're having these conversations, they might get overlooked solely because they don't have that gold buckle. But yeah, they were just as good of a bull rider on any given day, and things just didn't fall out the way they may. So I'd love to hear you guys' opinion. Give us a shout out. Like I said, share this post, comment below, and we'll tally up the votes. The next episode will probably be in about 2 weeks from now, and we'll have a special guest appearance as well. So, like I said, I just love history in general, let alone the history of bull riding. Bull riding to me is the greatest thing in the entire world other than my faith and my family. Bull riding is number 3. So the history of bull riding is extremely important, because how are you supposed to know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And some of these old bull riders, like a Denny Flynn, needs to be recognized and called out to where bull riding is today and what they did to pave that way. But when you look at bull riding in the future and where it's going, it has the opportunity to continue to grow at double-digit levels year over year, continue to get better and better. The sport itself, the athleticism, the excitement, just the overall grit and character that it takes to make the 8 seconds in the last round of the PBR World Finals. I mean, there's no greater moment in sports to me than bull riding in that way. So when you look at the future of the sport, whether it's some young kid on his way up in the mini bulls or some high school kid out there, there is a lot to be excited about. But our featured bull rider of the day, somebody who's going to make a huge impact in the future of this sport, is going to be Johnny Perez. Johnny Perez is a great young man. He's been riding bulls now for a few years, has won himself a state title, and is on his way to having a great year this year in the PBR. He got things warmed up last year, really got a taste of some success. So this is a bull rider that epitomizes the future of where the sport is going. He's young and athletic. He's got every intangible that you want from a bull rider. He works at it. He trains at it. Somebody to really keep your eye on, and that's going to make a big impact this year in particular and for years to come. So, if you're looking for something, if you want to support the sport of bull riding, I would take a look at some of your local bull riders. Take a look at somebody who could, slap your business on their vest and chaps, and not just that. I mean, you don't want to just spend money to spend money. You need to get a return on your investment. So these bull riders, they need to realize that they need to work for those sponsorship dollars. And I can tell you from personal experience that somebody like Johnny Perez is perfect for that mold. So if any are interested, in possibly working with Johnny and getting your business, getting your venture out there, he's a great ambassador of our sport and would be a representative like no other for you. And even if it's not Johnny, like I said, if you have somebody local and you have a local business, if they get to work for you guys, they could really earn their keep and your sponsorship and that partnership. Please take a look at that and look at supporting your local bull rider, if you will. Because it's not cheap traveling these days, whether it's gas, hotels, flights, whatever it may be, health insurance. It's not like it used to be. So it would be great to continue to put the money back into our sport, and maybe by looking into a local bull rider like a Johnny Perez might be a great way to do it. So again, thank you. I know it was just me this time, just chatting a little bit. Wanted to get the conversation about bull riding started, and in the first episode of Bull Party out of the way. So please stay tuned. Take a look. Look out for some interviews, some other shows coming up, and just as we continue to progress and the sport of bull riding continues to progress. So thank you all. You all have a good night, and we'll see you soon.